Branding. What is branding all about? Branding is the light and the guide to all of our marketing efforts. But what is the branding that truly defines the Philippines and truly defines what is Southeast Asian tourism? What is at the heart of brand Pilipinas? What is it at the heart of the brand of Southeast Asian tourism? Our final forum here today pulls together the top entrepreneurs from around the country and the ASEAN region to share with all of us insights on how to market the Southeast Asian tourism brand based on their respective perspectives and on their expertise. Mga kaibigan, let us cap off our day at the first ever tourism summit by learning from the experts and gaining lessons on how to keep up the business. Again, please watch this.
Our forum brings together the diverse segments of the tourism sector: hospitality, medical tourism, culinary tourism, and cultural tourism, as its leading experts show us the way to make ASEAN the top global destination, highlighting the best practices that make different business models in tourism sustainable. So, let us welcome our distinguished guests: the Director of Tourism, Retail and Franchise, Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Samie Lim. The CEO and Medical Director of Belo Medical Group, Dr. Vicki Belo. The Chairman of the Cultural Center of the Philippines, Miss Margarita Moran-Floirendo. The President and Chief Executive of Phinma Microtel Hotels, Mr. Jose Mari del Rosario. The Chair of ASEAN-BAC Indonesia, Mr. Anangga Roosdiono. And the CEO and President of Cibo, Chef Margarita Gaita Flores. To facilitate the discussion, let us welcome the Managing Director of the MVP Group Media Bureau, COO of Silangan Mindanao Mining Company Incorporated, and Senior Vice President for Public and Regulatory Affairs of Philex Mining Corporation, Attorney Mike Toledo.
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Good afternoon, everybody. I can't hear you. Good afternoon, everybody. Much better. Siguro naman you were very excited after that raffle. You're more alive now. Thank you very much, Tony Fernandez, for making sure that all our guests are getting their adrenaline rush. Maraming salamat. Again, good afternoon and welcome to the 5th forum, which is Learn from the Experts, Lessons in Keeping Up the Business. And allow me to introduce to you what we call in this program as the Intervenors. That connotes a lot of things, that they will intervene. So hopefully they'll be kind later on. But what we'll do is I will introduce them first to analyze and respond to the discussion. Please welcome the founder of ECHOStore in the Philippines, Ms. Pacita Juan. Right there. The chairman of the ASEAN-BAC Malaysia Healthcare Working Group, Dr. Hooshmand Palany. and the Center Director of the Singapore Polytechnic Innovation Office, Mr. Neelesh Bhatia. Right there. Okay. Again, good afternoon, and just some house rules. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to treat this panel discussion like a talk show because I'm also trying to apply for a position in TV5 for a possible show. So let's consider some sort of a talk show. These are my distinguished guests on my morning program. And the last 15 minutes, we will ask our intervenors to come in. So they will intervene. So that's how we're going to do it. Now, we'll make it as engaging, as thought-provoking, and as interesting as possible. And perhaps because of what Tony Fernandez started, who knows, our panelists may just donate something as well for raffle. Don't you think so? Come on, clap. Louder. Yeah, louder. Great, great. Oh, magandang hapon po, Secretary Belo. And of course, my panyero, spokesman Sal Panelo. Good afternoon. Congratulations on yesterday's Labor Day celebration. Anyway, let's get this show off the road. My first question goes to Samie Lim. Samie? Now, we know that when you were president of PCCI, you were very much involved in tourism, and you came out with a tourism roadmap and even discussed a value chain as far as tourism is concerned. Can you briefly share with us, with the panel, with the interveners and everyone, what is it all about?
Okay, when I was asked to take care of tourism, everybody comes to me and say, I've got a nice beach, I've got a nice waterfall, can you promote our beach, waterfall, and all that? So tourism is really not just one attraction. So I came out with what we call a template for a supply chain. There are 5 things that has to be there. It's not only one, and this morning and this afternoon, I keep hearing the question, what is the most important? There are 5 things that has to be there all at the same time before you can promote any tourism destinations. So imagine yourself as a tourist, you want to arrive at the place either by air, by sea, you want to do it conveniently, safely, inexpensively, frequent flights meaning. After you arrive at the port, you'd like to go to where you want to go, which is access, which is the road that brings you to where you want to go. But access is more than just road, it's also water, utility, and the other utilities. And so the first thing you do when you arrive in a country is to get a good night's sleep. That is what I call accommodations. So that's the third A, and accommodations has to be predictable. If you pay 5-star, you expect 5-star accommodations. If you pay 1-star, then you expect 1-star accommodations. So after you sleep, this is the most important, it is the attraction. The main reason why you go anywhere is because of that attraction. An attraction can be natural attractions or it can be man-made. Natural, all of you know, are the beaches, the mountains, and all of that. Man-made could be the casinos, the golf course, and all of that. But since we're going to bring people to our country, we want them to stay a bit longer, to enjoy our country, and frankly, spend a little bit more money. So we have to have a lot of activities. It could be the music, it could be spa, it could be any of those things, restaurants, and all of that. So these 5 things has to be there all at the same time before you can promote. Any one of them being absent, you cannot get the tourists to come to your place. So that's why I call it supply chain. A chain is as strong as the weakest link. And if any of that link is broken, then you will not have tourists coming or coming back at least. Thank you.
Thank you, Samie. I could see that the interveners were listening intently to your every word. I can just imagine what they will be asking later on. Later on also, I will touch on infrastructure if we have time. But let's move on. I'd like to call on and ask a dear friend who has been a proponent of beauty for so many years now, and she embodies it as well. Vicki? Let's give her a round of applause, please.
Hello,
Vicki.
a Belo, beautiful afternoon to everyone. Hi, guys. Thank you for staying with the last, diba? So you've been here a long time.
Yep.
Thank you for staying.
They'll be waiting if you'll be raffling off something, but that's later on.
If I knew, I would have brought gifts. Next year, you come back.
But Vicki, you have been in the forefront of this industry, which is a big industry, billions. I'm not just talking about pesos, but dollar industry. Now, what can you say as far as medical tourism is concerned, and maybe focusing on beauty medical tourism. Where is the Philippines now? Where can the Philippines be years from now?
Well, you know, Mike, I studied in Thailand. That was 30 years ago. I know I look really young. I was only 10. But I was studying dermatology in Thailand, and it is also the beginning of their tourism industry. So there was this hospital called Bumrungrad, 2 floors lang, very small. And I would watch that hospital and say, why can't we do it in the Philippines? Why is Thailand the same? It seems to be the hub for Europeans to go there. So where is the Philippines going? I think in terms of quality of work, you know, it's good to be Asian. I think we really make better doctors when it comes to beauty because we have, first of all, our culture is into intricate things. For example, in Thailand, the fruits are cut beautifully. In the Philippines, we have this paper that we cut for, you know, and we have smaller hands and we have very good aesthetics. I think in terms of work, and then we speak English very well. The nurses all over the world, the Filipino nurses are always the most caring. So everything seems to be there, ready to get tourists to come. I think if there's any problem that I see, unfortunately, it's that our PR is not so good. You know, I would love if more of the positive things that happen in the Philippines are you know, magnified abroad rather than, you know, they keep talking about the war somewhere or that it's not so safe or, you know, things like that. But we're very ready to be a tourism hub and, you know, a very good one at that, if only we can get our PR better.
Thank you very much. Very good point. Definitely branding is crucial and public relations, so how the country is marketed abroad plays a pivotal role if we are to really improve our ability to bring in a lot of these tourists. Now, this next question I will ask to somebody who's definitely the reason why your clinic exists, because she has maintained her beauty through the years. Margie Moran-Floirendo, what can I say?
I credit my doctor, Dr. Vicki Belo. For 29 years, we've been friends.
Yeah. You know,
My
Margie
doctor.
has been involved in so many things in Mindanao, and now she's the chair of the CCP, very much involved in culture and the arts. So, Marge, how important is culture in promoting tourism? There are countries in this world, without mentioning them, so they might feel bad about it, that actually have to contrive and create some sort of a culture if only to market themselves. But the Philippines is so rich in culture. Are we using it to the hilt in promoting our culture to encourage more tourists to come in and learn from us?
I don't think we are really promoting it that well. We have so many beautiful places, but we are not selling what is the soul of the country, which is our history and our culture. And that is so important because travelers now go to a place and look for what they can see as their history and as their culture, their shows. And it is more lasting, as important as going to the beach. But being the soul of the country, it tells more of us as a people. And we have to create the events for us to sell our culture. We have to take advantage that in 2021, it's Philippines 500. We are going to be 500 years old. And this is going to be a major thing if we choose to do that. And it should be a concerted effort of government and as well as the private sector. And that is a very good opportunity to really promote our culture through tourism. And that's coming up in 2 years.
Thank you, Marge. Now let's go to Mr. De Rosario. Tourism and how it has grown through the years, statistics have shown, in fact, that it has contributed immensely to, for example, employment. A large percentage of our GDP or GNP is also because of tourism. And the real estate industry has become robust because of how the tourism industry has also grown through the years. I guess my question would be twofold. One, what is your group doing as far as this industry is concerned in ensuring that we have the hotel infrastructure in place to accommodate all these tourists coming in, which is predicted to even grow exponentially as the years go by? And number two, maybe I don't know if you're giving advice to your competitors, but what will be your advice to those who would want to invest in the hotel or resort business? Do they have to limit themselves to 3 or 4-star hotels, or should they go for a 5-star treatment?
Well, first, I'd like to thank Secretary Joey for inviting me here, and to be classified among the experts is already an honor in itself. Thank you very much. And to answer your question, what did we do? Well, first we identified a forgotten segment of the market that has, well, there's a lot of potential, which is the mid-market. We literally started out in the provinces, and I chose Microtel, which is a mid-market hotel chain in the US, but brought it to the Philippines and located ourselves in the provincial areas like Tarlac, Cabanatuan, and Davao and Gensan. We have a total of 15 properties now, all catering to the mid-market, to domestic tourism. And I can say that because of that, and together with the infrastructure that Cebu Pacific has introduced, which is budget airfares, we have encouraged a lot of domestic travel. And with the past administrations building highways and bridges and airports, all of it has brought into play the very important segment what Samie was talking about. We're just one of the cogs to put up and encourage tourism in the countryside. Everything has been concentrated here in Metro Manila and Cebu for 5-star category hotels. But we thought that was what not needed by this country. We needed to disperse it into the countryside. So can you imagine, we were the first international hotel chain even in Baguio. We were the first international chain in Boracay. And so is in all of the other locations. Connectivity is very important for travelers now to be able to reserve something or a room with their fingertips. So that the international connectivity, the Filipino warmth and hospitality, all of it has come into play. And I think, to answer your second question, we think that a lot of the big players like Ayala, SM, Robinsons, they've all noticed the mid-market, and they've all come up with their similar budget or mid-market products. And I'd like to think that, again, because of the growth of the spending power of Filipinos, there's a lot of potential for that.
Thank you very much. Now, warm applause, please. Yeah. By the way, I could see our intervenors are very busy conversing with each other. I think they're coming up with very hard and difficult questions, so panel, be ready. Now, Mr. Roosdiono, welcome to Manila. By the way, he is also a lawyer, so we are the 2 lawyers in this panel, and that's just too many lawyers already in one panel, if I may say.
I think that's right.
Yeah, exactly. But my question would be, being a respected practitioner of law in Indonesia and ASEAN as a whole, do you think that the legal framework, perhaps it would be unfair to ask you about the Philippine legal framework, but the legal framework in ASEAN as a whole, does it need some sort of tweaking to encourage cross-border investment? Is it necessary to harmonize the different laws of the different members of ASEAN to ensure that each country can invest in each other's country much easily, red tape, etc., and perhaps by doing so, ASEAN will be marketed as a whole, as a block, a destination for other people from other continents to go to, but they will not just limit it to, say, to the Philippines or to Singapore, to Hong Kong or Malaysia, but they will say it is a block and we can go from one country to the other.
This is a very interesting question, which this is the whole problem about when we are talking about tourism. Because actually, when we are talking tourism, actually it should be an easy way of people to move people from one place to another place. But when we start talking about tourism, then it relates to law, because a lot of regulation is made about whether people can move from one place to another place, whether how the government regulates each country or each people or its citizen to move. Because this is something that always the problem. We are talking about one visa. Now we have, yes, one visa for 10 countries. And then we want to have an ASEAN lane. Yes, there are ASEAN lanes in every country. But is it easier to move? No, still a big problem. Now when we are talking about the regulations, there's a lot of regulations. There's a lot of problems that cause people to move not easy, because, you know, if you have to, whether it's easy from one country to another country. And then when we are talking about tourism, do we have a standard of ASEAN, standard for hotels or for hospitals? It is still a big problem. So I think when we are talking about tourism, the cooperation between each government should be there, and also between each government with the business, because this is the whole problem of the hindrance of tourism in each country.
Thank you very much. And perhaps later on we can talk about that some more together with our interveners. And now I go on to one of my most favorite persons in the world, because she has been an ambassador for Philippine culture and for, of course, Philippine food. And Gaita, how important is culinary tourism? Perhaps similar to my question that I posited earlier to Vicki. Where are we now as far as culinary tourism is concerned? Are we getting where we want to? Is there a roadmap? And if not, what do you suggest and what should we do to further enhance this particular industry?
Well, hi Mike. Thank you so much for inviting me today. And I'm so honored to be with the rest of the panel here. And well, for me, being in culinary tourism and food tourism and in the industry, it's actually a real blessed time for us, because food tourism is kind of like become infectious globally. Chefs are the new rock stars. And thanks to the late Anthony Bourdain, the world has gotten so much smaller precisely because of everywhere that he's been to and everywhere that he went to eat, and most especially because he said that our lechon is the best pig in the world. And I think that most especially for Filipino cuisine and how it's affected tourism for us, I think that this is a real renaissance for us. There was a time when we weren't very clear about what our cuisine was, and we only, I think maybe 20 years ago, we would only eat Filipino food at home, because that's where we made Filipino food best. Our mothers at home would do it best. But today, fast forward to 2019, I think in the last, maybe I would say the last decade, the last 10 years, there's been a real reawakening and a new love affair between us Filipinos and our own. I think there have been many incidents in our history that have made us realize what a wonderful people we are and what a great country we are. Even if it was something as devastating as Yolanda, for example, it shone a lot of light on the Philippines and showed the resilience of our people, and at the same time, it brought a lot of people from other countries to the Philippines, and they saw how beautiful our country was. And I think that they also then enjoyed the food, so that was one. If it had to take Manny Pacquiao winning so many times, I think that also made us fall in love, and with ourselves. And I feel that really, we're a young country. We only became a country in 1945. So our national identity it's been a real struggle for us to really kind of like love ourselves again. There's the colonial mentality was so prevalent that we would celebrate eating steak and eating Spanish food or eating Italian food instead of celebrating with Filipino. But now that there's this new interest, and not just locally but globally, attention to Filipino cuisine with Filipino chefs from all over the world who are making their mark, as well as the Filipino chefs here. A lot of events also that have been partnerships with government that have brought famous chefs to come to Manila to appreciate our ingredients and our cuisine. And partnerships between, the Department of Agriculture and the DOT. I mean, I need to make a shout out to Secretary Berna Puyat because really it did start with a lot of her efforts in both departments. And for us in the private sector, she brought us closer to government and she introduced us to the farmers. And I think that really allowed a real cohesive movement to bring attention to our own cuisine. So now it's not just bringing the adobo out there or bringing balut out there. Everyone knows it already. Now the new trend is regionality. And the latest real kind of hot thing that everybody wants to know about is about the food from Mindanao. So I think that that's so great. And there's just so much more, I think. And I feel that there's a real uptrend. The number of Filipino restaurants that have opened all over the Philippines with young chefs doing all these exciting things. I think that it's really just, showing what more is to come. And I think that it's just very positive. And when you say that we are the experts, I kind of hesitate a little bit because I've been in the industry for 30 years. But I think that the minute you believe that you know everything, that's the start of your downfall. I think for the food industry, we need to listen, most especially to the next generation. Because with social media and everything, the trends come from them. What they like comes from them. What is a hit on Instagram. So we have to be in the age that we're at, we need to listen to the young people and then at least be in touch with what they want. And I think that if you put all those things together, then the food industry will just help the entire spectrum of tourism for our country.
Thank you very much, Gaita. That was a very comprehensive answer. Perhaps anybody from the panel could answer this, but what do you think will be the next big disruptive force in tourism?
Let me rephrase that. What is going to bring our tourism from 7 million to 10 or 12 million in the Philippines is opening up all the international gateways, the airport, not only in Manila, but also in Clark and Sangli, and also in Cibo as the gateway to Cibo. Earlier, we heard from a speaker, he believes that Cibo should be the hub for the whole Philippines, and I wish him luck. But the next thing is Mindanao. Mindanao should open an international gateway for the rest of the country. And with that, the whole Philippine tourism will reach, and we have targeted 20 million international tourists and 120 million domestic tourists by the next 10 years. And if we follow that 5 A's, and we have priority, one thing that's very clear, we cannot promote 100 different cities all at the same time or destinations. We have to do what Bali is doing, other countries are doing. We promote 5 countries and make them models of success. And Filipinos, gaya, they will copy it and they will be able to be successful. But the government trying to give 2 million here, 2 million there, and every barangay 2 million, that's not going to bring in any tourists. It will just make the few barangay captains very happy. That's all.
Anyone else from the panel would like to comment? What do you think will be the next disruptive force in the tourism industry? Mary?
I would like to think that it's not really finding something to disrupt. I think we have a lot of catching up to do. So even just coming up to par with what the rest of the world is doing is already a tall order in itself. And I think at least the government has been doing a lot of infrastructure building, whether it's airport or roads, and connectivity. That in itself is a lot of work, and the industry is all together in that.
Vicki?
Well, what I think is that we should go back to our roots. I think we've lost our... We try, I think, to copy or be so modern, but from traveling so much and meeting so many tourists abroad, what they really appreciate is stuff that they don't see. Something like a jeepney. They tell me now, what happened to all your beautiful jeepneys with all the ribbons and the things in front? Something like that makes them so happy. And now the jeepneys are, all those berloloy is gone. I think our cultural dancing, as a child, I used to love bayanihan. Now when my tourist friends come, I have nowhere to bring them. They used to have a daily show in Sulo Hotel, you know, with the pandango sa ilaw, the itik-itik pa, and they're so amazed. And we've kind of just forgotten. The thing that's wonderful about digital, though, is that everybody, my biggest competition right now in medical tourism is not other clinics. It's travel. It's being beautiful, showing where they go, Instagrammable things, because that's what it's all about. Everybody wants to share their very nice, exciting, unique life. And so we have to think as a country that we should be Instagrammable, because then people will really come here. And well, one thing that I think has been so disruptive that I'm shocked about is that when I meet people abroad, they all want to come to the Philippines now. People that I meet in France, or even I've had people from, I don't know if you know it, but Bill Gates loves coming here. Zuckerberg loves coming here. They just go straight and then they go to Amman, Pulo. And it's really a big word now wherever you go. Oh, Philippines, we really want to go there. So it's become an in thing among the rich, the very, very rich, with their very private planes who just arrive and go straight, and we don't even know they're here, except that I hear from the people who are there. And so it will begin to trickle down because, of course, it's become aspirational to come to the Philippines. And I'm very proud now to be a Filipino because they always say, oh, I heard it's the most beautiful place. People are so caring. So it's actually going back to what we were before, because that's what we were known for, our warmth, our hospitality, our love for life. And if I, that's my dream job, by the way. Not that I want to get Bernadette Puya, is what's her name, out of it. But I think I would make a great tourism secretary because I think that I really know what people want. It's so simple and easy to do. But we even like won't even cost 2 million if we just had our caritelas, back to our fiestas. They love fiesta. That's what they remember, the warmth, the smile, the fiestas. But for medical tourism, for me, well, of course, what Belo is trying to do is to really propagate that we are the experts on Asian skin. Because there's so many Asians now, and they're really actually the richer people. If you go shopping anywhere, it's the Asian tourists that are buying all the Hermes and Christian Dior and whatever. So if we can be the expert on Asian skin, because Caucasians are so afraid of Asian skin because they're very unstable. So if a Caucasian had a surgery, for example, they wouldn't have any scars. Their skin is just like that. But Asian skin, you touch it a little, mosquito bite, it's black. Or you have a keloid. So they're so afraid of Asian skin, so that's what we're positioning Belo to be. Like, we're the experts on Asian skin. And we do get referrals from doctors in the UK, in the States, because, they pass the problem to us.
Okay, any more comment before I turn you over for a while for the interveners? Winter is coming, so...
but I just want to further... what Vicki is saying.
Yes, please.
Now there is a change of attitude and how people want to move along. Now in the past, a lot of the ASEAN people, they go to the Western countries, they go to Europe, to the US. But nowadays there's a lot of change. Now ASEAN is looking to ASEAN itself, and because of, as Vicki is saying about Instagram, because of that, they want to go to exotic places, a place where nobody has been there, and ASEAN is the place. So there is a change of attitude, maybe because of also it is cheaper to go between ASEAN countries. Rather, we have to fly to Europe and to United States. But because of the Instagram and all the pictures and Facebook and everything, people start showing off by, I've been to this exotic place, to Bhutan or to somewhere in Papua, but where everybody cannot be there. But now there's a change of attitude to coming back to, as what Vicki is saying, coming back to the old days when we see the old times beauty.
Well, thank you very much. A quick comment, Samie?
Yeah. One more
Yes,
thing.
I was going
I
to-
think that the real...
Marge, are you going to say something quickly?
Yeah, taking off from what Samie said, that you can open all the gateways, but you have to fill up the seats in the airlines. So what will make tourists come and use those gateways? So you have to create something. Culinary tourism is part of culture tourism because our culinary is influenced by global influences from the Spanish period and the Chinese period. So it's part of culinary. So we cannot just, not everybody wants to go to the beach. And people want to go to a country to learn more of the country. Our problem is how do we market this in a concerted effort? We are very rich in culture. We have the indigenous people, we have indigenous stories. We have so much stories to tell, but people, when they come here, they don't know what show to watch. Because like the cultural center is very limited in its funds to print what's showing, but we have 980 shows a year. And you have 550,000 people that go to the CCP. But there are many other theaters that we can also sell, and the performing arts are very active in the Philippines. And we export our art. In fact, the Biennale, we have the visual artists who are going to Milan to showcase their artwork. So that in itself already sells our country. So we have to push for that because it's a different market that probably, and these are a high-paying market as well.
Thanks, Marge. Maybe a quick comment from Samie before I
Right.
turn you over to the interveners. They're itching to ask their questions.
Anyway, people have been asking what the business opportunities are. I think all of you were given this little pamphlet, at least partially what the opportunities, investment opportunities there are in any of the 5 A's. But more important, going back to your question, I think the next big game changer, as also brought up by the Thai gentleman, is cruising. A cruise boat brings in thousands of tourists, and a plane brings in only a few hundred. So cruising in the next 5 years will probably make the big difference. We make a leapfrog into the many millions of tourists. Yeah.
That's true. Without divulging which group, but I understand that there will be a group that will be putting, for the first time, a first-class terminal to accept this top-class, world-class tourism ships, which is really what we need now. Anyway, at this point, I'd like to transfer or give the floor to our interveners, perhaps the Chit, or who will be asking the first question?
Go ahead.
Okay, please.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Excellent panel so far. Just a quick question for Samie. You mentioned that you're trying to increase the numbers of tourists coming into about up to 20 million. I can see the importance of that. It can create a lot of employment. It can create a lot of business opportunity. But at the same time, the excess of tourism activities can also create a lot of environment problems and sustainability problems. So how do you manage that? And could you please comment on that? Thanks.
Now, number one, you have to understand the Philippine situation. We were at 2 million tourists for 25 years. But when we followed that supply chain, we were able to improve it to 5 million, now to 7 million and all that. So the supply chain concept does work. So it's going to happen. Number two, how are we going to solve the environmental problem? I think we had a president who did the right thing. I think Boracay has been such a great success that I heard from our ASEAN neighbors, even they are following our example. They've closed certain beaches, so forth and so on. I think we have to be a bit more proactive I think we should ban all single-use plastic in the beaches and even, this, container. Everybody should bring their own container for one. That's the first step. But it is a giant step. All the whales and the dolphins are dying out there because they swallow one of these things. So one small step, but it's going to be a big, big step. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I have a statement to make before my question. Now, this morning, the Secretary of State listed out the initiatives currently and for the future. And then Joey also spoke very encouragingly where tourism in Philippines could head. But then, since then until now, it has been depressing. Why are you beating yourselves up? What's wrong? Why do you keep saying you are not good at that, you are not good at this? In fact, you are telling the whole world, don't come to Philippines. We don't have cruise. We don't have connectivity. We don't have good hotels. But here we have, in the panelist, flogging what you have. So I'm thinking, there is a huge Filipino brand, and you are not blowing your trumpet loud enough. I feel like a celebrity now.
Are you going to give away tickets?
Well, there is a raffle, only to the ladies, panelists. If you answer my question well, you get to go for dinner with me. Anyway, so I'm thinking, you already have a lot of things, and I think some of you mentioned your culture, your cuisine, and the way you live. They are already there. 30, 40, 50 years ago, the traditional tourism spots in the world, did they have a low-cost airline? Did they have roads? Did they have cruises? No, but they became tourism hotspots. So you have everything. Since morning, you are beating yourself up that you are not good in anything. I think buy bigger trumpets, blow it louder, you have everything. Now my question. What is the unifying brand of Filipinos? When I think of going to Thailand, what comes to my mind? When I think of going to Malaysia, what comes to my mind? Or China, or India. So how do you position the Philippines? When people say, I want to go for holiday in the Philippines, what is your unifying brand that people come to experience? Thank you.
Gaita, please. Thank you very much. Yeah, you'll get your dates later.
Well, I think one of the things that the Philippines has that no one else in the world has is that we are as much Latin as we are Asian. There is nowhere in the world. Okay, Macau, you see Portuguese in their signs, etc., but you don't feel the Latinness from the people. You don't feel it from the people in Macau. But here in the Philippines, the warmth, the Latin warmth is unmistakable. I mean, the minute you meet a Filipino, whether here or you meet us in America, wherever, it's an embrace. We are so warm. No matter how hard life is for us, we have smiles on our faces. And I think that the way we live our lives is just as much Latin as it is Asian. And I think that uniqueness is something that we should carry forward and really kind of trumpet about, because then it's what makes us different also from all other Asian countries in the region. So I think it's really that. It's the Latin Asians.
Yeah. Very good point. I feel so Latin now. Anyway, I maybe talk Spanish later on. Bésame mucho, whatever. Sam?
Can I react first to your comment? I think our previous secretary, Secretary Jimenez, did a great job with It's More Fun in the Philippines, and I'm sure he could have brought in 10 million tourists because that's what is target. But it was the bottleneck, the congestions at the airport. They could not enter easily. They could not fly in easily because there were not enough slots for the airplanes. And when they leave, they get delayed at the runway 2 hours to take off, so forth and so on. And that's why there are 18 airports that are being built simultaneously. So we are not complaining. We're just bringing out opportunities for all of these people to invest in. And they are investing. In terms of hotel, I know there will be at least 20,000 hotel rooms that are online and will be open in the next 2 years. So we are work in progress. And in 2 years, watch out. Thank you.
Any more questions from the interveners, or would you care, anybody would want to react to the question those earlier propounded?
I think they want an easier question,
Okay,
which I will ask.
go ahead, Chit.
We're talking about the Philippines, but we must be mindful that this is really ASEAN. So, how do we encourage the ASEAN member states' citizens or our co-ASEAN people to travel to ASEAN first rather than going straight away to Europe or going to South Africa, but not discovering first the 9 other member states? So it's a very easy question.
Distinguished members of the panel?
I think it's, I noticed lately, that now the ASEAN people are really looking to their fellow countries. Because although in the past we always say, if we go to ASEAN countries, it's just the same. We have the same culture, we have the same food and everything, and we go to Europe and the United States. But now people are looking more to something that they cannot find anywhere, but it's still an exotic place to go. When we are talking about culinary, now everybody wants to go to a place to get something nice to eat, which they haven't eaten anywhere. And ASEAN is now become the place to do that. And also when we are talking about connectivity, about price of flying, it's much more cheaper. And people, we are almost understanding about each other. We think that we are, I think I'm a Filipino, when a Filipino thinks she is somebody from Laos or so. It's no difference at all. So now the important thing is about marketing and branding. This morning, I heard about why the Southeast Asia Games is not changed to the ASEAN Games. Themes also with branding, we have flights everywhere. You have the Philippine Airlines, we have the Garuda, but it's never said Garuda, an ASEAN airline. Philippine Airlines, an ASEAN Airlines. As the only Air Asia, we say we are an ASEAN Airlines. So it is about marketing, but nowadays it is the willingness and because of the Instagram and everything, we are more looking into our own surroundings.
Very good points. Sam, care to comment?
Yeah, we've been lobbying for something similar to U.S. for the more senior in the group. When we visit the U.S., we have the so-called VUSA, Visit USA. You go to one state and you pay $20, they bring you to another state. I've been lobbying for that in the ASEAN. And this morning you heard, Cebu Pacific, Philippine Airlines, they are now talking to the other ASEAN people. Maybe less than $100. So I think they'll settle for $50. If you fly into any ASEAN countries, pay $50 more, they'll bring you to one more country. So that is one. Number two, the problem with the visa. We're trying to get all 10 countries to agree on one visa. If we cannot get 10 countries, let's get 3 or 4 countries to start it off, and the rest will follow. There's no need for all the 10 countries to agree on it, because for 15 years we could not agree on it. So it might take another 15 years. But if only 4 countries will, maybe countries that complement and supplement each other, they come to an agreement. And then lastly, the point about ASEAN branding, very interesting, but very controversial. ASEAN has become such a, I'm sorry to use the word, dinosaur, an octopus. They have so many committees. Some committees doesn't know what the other committees are doing. There is a branding committee in ASEAN, and they are proposing to drop the word ASEAN. They want to change it to Southeast Asia. Okay, so I don't know if that's really with concurrence of the ABAC chair, but their committee is recommending that. Because they say, people say, let's go to Europe. They don't say, let's go to EU. So maybe we should go back and change it to Southeast Asia. But I think that's a mistake. I think we should just push forward a bit more, get a branding expert from ASEAN countries to sit together and coordinate better with the ASEAN-BAC, and ASEAN-BAC should get the committee to make a report and not to start talking, because it's in the website, okay? They're talking about, let's change ASEAN to Southeast Asia. So it's bringing us back 50 years backward and all that. Thank you.
Marge?
Yeah, we should continue creating conferences and summits here in the Philippines where the ASEAN countries can participate. For example, the CCP is embarking on a Performing Arts Center Summit in September, and this is South Asia Pacific region. So if we can continue creating more conferences, more summits, that is a way of inviting people to the regions as well. And it's cheaper for ASEAN countries, participants to come to the Philippines, or the Filipinos going to ASEAN countries.
Very good point. We need more summits like this. So let's again congratulate and thank Secretary Joey Concepcion for making this possible, and of course his team. A warm round of applause to his team as well, please. What a fantastic summit indeed. Hopefully this will really jumpstart more discussions on this very, very important issue, because we all know how important tourism will be as a pillar of growth, not only for the Philippines, but for ASEAN in general. Do we still have any comments or questions from our interveners?
This time I'll ask a simpler question.
Please.
But before that, I want to echo what you just said. Joey and his team, not sure whether many of you are aware, there are 3 major events taking place in 2 days under his watchful eyes. And my first experience to Manila, and everything and everyone has taken care of me and the visitors so well. Thank you so much. Now, I want to talk about medical tourism. Wasn't spoken too much today, when I think that is medical tourism has a few important key benefits. One is it can churn the economy. Secondly, it can bring medical technology to the country, including your startups. Now, thirdly, it can also upskill personnel, not just doctors, but also the whole range of services that the healthcare provides. But I don't hear too much about medical tourism in the Philippines, when Thailand, Malaysia promotes it so aggressively. So I think that is an area, but I want to ask probably to Dr. Belo, is there a reason why Philippines is not promoting healthcare tourism or medical tourism where it should be promoting in a big way? Thank you.
Well, we are promoting, but individually. There seems to be a lack of teamwork. Although we met about, I think last week, 9 hospitals that are internationally accredited, and Belo Medical Group, which is the only accredited surgery center, separate from a hospital. I think what's happening is every time there's a new government or we begin again. We always have a task force, we always talk about it, and then it's not quite a group. For us, for Belo Medical Group, since it's been my dream to make the Philippines a medical tourist destination for beauty, we've done a lot already single-handedly, like with my own money. So we have a TV show that shows around the world, and it's a TV show about how we do procedures in the Philippines. I think one thing that I can be proud of, since we're a third world country, what I do is I go to the States, I go to Europe, I go to Brazil, I go to Korea, I go to Japan, and I bring the best technology from all these countries to the Philippines so that it becomes a one-stop shop. Because if you're a beauty doctor, Americans think they're the best, Europeans think they're the best, Japan, Korea. So it's hard to put them all together. So you'll only find that in Belo. And that's why I think we do have a strong medical tourism. We're a destination for a lot of tourists, especially from the Middle East, from Australia, and from the States. Because our prices are more reasonable. And of course, it's important to have state-of-the-art equipment. You always have to have top-notch. The way we market it abroad is we give a lot of talks in a lot of, I came from Monaco, gave a talk in Chicago, always telling them this is what we do in the Philippines. But, you know, it's really hard because there's not that much support for medical tourism from the government. When I was talking to the hospitals, their big markets are Papua New Guinea, from Guam, to do their cabbage procedures here, to do their orthopedic procedures here. So I think what we would like is some support from the government, because instead, like in cosmetic surgery, Thailand gets a lot of support from the government, but in the Philippines, we even get taxed more just to do beauty kind of tourism. Am I in trouble? Sorry.
Don't worry, you're not in trouble. And your name is being considered for the position you wanted. Secretary Bebot Belo is here to relay your desire. Very good point that you raised, Vicki. I'm afraid, as I promised you this afternoon, we always save the best for last, as we say, or at least that's how we want to think. And really, it has been very engaging, but I'm afraid we're running out of time. So with your indulgence, I would ask each and every member of the panel to perhaps say a minute or so their final words to share with this audience. Can we start with you, Gaita?
Well, it's been really fulfilling to listen to everyone today. And it just makes me realize how those of us in our field are quite instrumental in bringing tourism forward, I guess not just for the Philippines, but for the region, for ASEAN as well. I think that food tourism is a real kind of like cornerstone for now. I think that we should use it, those of us in the industry, to really help the industry as a whole, not just in the Philippines, but as well as for the rest of the region. One of the things that has been spoken about a lot, actually, from people that have been to a lot of our resorts in the Philippines, is they wonder sometimes why, let's say they go to Boracay and they don't find any seafood, or they don't find the seafood prepared properly. So maybe in closing, I would like to make a commitment that I will round up the rest of those, the chefs and the other stakeholders in my industry, to really get together, to make an effort to improve the food at Philippine resorts. Because everybody loves our beaches, everybody loves to dive, everybody loves going to the beach, to our islands, but they kind of like get a little bit let down when they eat. So it's really about best practices and really using the local ingredients that are available. And I would like to make a commitment to do that with those of us in the industry, so that at least they won't say that it's beautiful, but the food's not so great. They'll say it's beautiful and we ate so well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's music to
Maraming
all our
salamat.
ears, because that's true. You go to Boracay and you think you're surrounded by the sea, but for some reason there's nothing. It's kind of weird. Yeah, kind of weird. Thank you very much, Gaita. That's really good news. Anangga, please.
Yeah, I think this is a very excellent summit. And I think the first tourism summit in ASEAN, and I would congratulate Joey for arranging this. And I think after this, there should be tourism summit not only in the Philippines, but in all 10 ASEAN countries. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
I'd like to just highlight what was said earlier, that for those people or institutions or even LGUs that are thinking of promoting their areas or investments, please think of the mid-market. There's a lot of opportunity. If you look at the triangle of who's rich and who has the disposable income, it's probably a single digit in terms of percentage of those that are traveling of the rich and famous. But the mid-market is where the opportunity is. And within that mid-market, there is the domestic market. We are 110 million Filipinos. Domestic tourism has grown a lot. There's still a lot of opportunity for that segment. And not only for the Philippines, but also for ASEAN as a whole. But on top of that, those who are going to venture into tourism, and I would like to really support what Chef Gaita was saying, please think of professional management. Because doing a mom and pop operation is nice and cute. But once a guest experiences an unfortunate experience which could have been avoided, it brings down the whole image of not only of your firm, but of your province, but of the country as well. So there are a lot of resources available. Tourism schools abound all over the Philippines. There's a training school for tourism owned by Mr. Samie. So things like this. But engage in detail, go into detail, master your craft, and enter the investment, whether it's hotels or restaurants, engage it with a passion. And I think that's the only way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Marge?
I cannot overemphasize the importance of the upcoming event, Philippines 500. Because we're turning 500 years old, and I think it's the NHCP who's heading it, but we need something to plan this early because it can encompass everything that we are rich with. Culinary, our history, our languages, medical tourism. We have the software, we have the talent of the Filipino. And we can engage all the ASEAN countries to celebrate with us as well. This is a huge event depending on who is going to head it. Maybe Joey Concepcion can head this. We need someone with the foresight and the heart to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Marge. Very good points. Dr. Vicki?
First of all, I've been with Negosyo for so long and I've never expressed my gratitude to Joey Concepcion for being such a wonderful mover, overcoming all the obstacles, just trying to make the Philippines better, all without any political agenda or trying to make money or trying to be voted or anything. So Joey, thank you. And for me, he's an example to all of us. Let's not be part of the problem. Let's be part of the solution. Let's all be ambassadors. We can all be ambassadors for how wonderful our country is. And, each one of you, when you meet a foreign national or even local, let's all be kind to each other. The motto of Belo is making the Philippines the most beautiful country, one person at a time. And the reason that is my motto is because I know I'm not tourism secretary yet. So the only field of expertise that I know is to make people beautiful. And if people see, even in Manila, if it's polluted or traffic, but they see smiles and they see beautiful people, kind people, ready to help, we can erase all the bad stuff. And so I appeal to all of you to do your part to make the Philippines great.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
There's a common word that comes from everybody, it's people. The single biggest contribution of Philippines are the Filipino people. Okay, they're hospitable. I'll give an example. We sent students from my school to Thailand, and they just basically take a 1-month course, very highly skilled in their respective housekeeping, front office, so forth and so on, but very, very specific, And we wouldn't expect them to become supervisors or managers right away. But the fact that they go to Thailand, and the chairman of ABAC was candid enough to say they don't speak English. So when all of these English-speaking visitor comes and asks them a question, they just giggle and smile and they don't say anything. And tourists just scratch their head. And it's the Filipino person that comes and answers the questions. And so the top management noticed that right away, and he gets promoted right away within 3 months of being a trainee. That is the contribution of Filipinos, that they speak English, they have a permanent smile, and they're beautiful because of Belo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. Before I call on to give his remarks, the man behind all of this, of course, I would just like to again thank the distinguished members of the panel, and of course, our very astute intervenors. Let's please give them a warm round of applause, please. They deserve it. So maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. At at this point, gusto ko namin tawagin si Secretary Joey Concepcion to please come up on stage and say a few words. Palakpakan po natin si Joey Concepcion.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank all of those who still are in this hall. I mean, congratulations to the students here who I guess you've been inspired by all our speakers, our mentors, many of our ASEAN Business Advisory Council members who are still here with us today, and many of the speakers, our mentors, and of course the beautiful women and men here patiently mentored everybody today. And this is what the advocacy of Go Negosyo has been doing for the last 14 years. And yes, Vicki was one of the very first Negosyo mentors that we have. In fact, I have her photo in a magazine. She looks the same. So if that's a testament to what she does, that's why she's doing well. Of course, Secretary Belo here is with us today, and our Labor Secretary is looking at the success of entrepreneurs because he needs more jobs for his constituents. Again, let me remind everybody that the Philippines is definitely right in the sweet spot. Many would sometimes be concerned about the style of our president, but I guess the advantage of President Duterte is that he brings about what I call real change, a determination to really act. And what we see today, and many people who have gone to Boracay, has seen and really a transformation from an island that was what they used to see many, many years back. And sustainable tourism is the only way forward. And among the three pillars, tourism, agriculture, and digitalization, which I presented to the President, we have to make our country inclusive. We must share our prosperity. The prosperity cannot be controlled by us, the rich. It has to be shared by many of those underprivileged, and many of the students here are looking for a better life. They're going to schools, being mentored by good schools, but in the end of the day, it's what the private sector and big business gives to them as that opportunity. Tony Fernandez was a great mentor in his talk today. He's a great inspiration, and many of these people who spend their time today are great inspiration. So today is the start, and I'm glad that this is a record for us because we have a lot of government enablers in this room who are listening. Many of them are from the provinces who flew all the way here for this event. And again, congratulations, because this is the start of making our country great. Hopefully, we move towards one battle cry. ASEAN is here. Tomorrow we meet with the AMEN Group, the ASEAN Mentorship for Entrepreneurship Network. Locally, we have about 800, 900 mentors today. Many of them are in this audience. Tomorrow, we speak about creating a greater network of 10 countries. Eventually, as we do more and more of these activities, I think Malaysia has a health conference that's going to happen this year. Vietnam is supposed to take over from us from the ASEAN Agriculture event that we did last year. So we are going to create many events that will need a lot of mentors, and that's why the legacy project of the Philippines, which is AMEN, is going to start. It's in fact being funded by the Japanese. So again, thank you, congratulations, and all of you students here. You do have a great future. Just believe in yourself.
Thank you, Joey. May we invite the panelists as well as our reactors and interveners to join us on stage.